from Connecticut.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. Mr. Chief Justice, I send a question to the desk on behalf of myself and Senators Warner, Heinrich, and Harris.
Thank you. The question from Senator Blumenthal and the other senators is for the House managers. It reads as follows. Before the break, the President's counsel stated that accepting mere information from a foreign source is not something that would violate campaign finance law, and that it is not campaign interference to accept credible information from a foreign source about someone who is running for office. Under this view, acceptance of the kinds of propaganda disseminated by Russia in 2016 on Facebook and other social media platforms using bots, fake accounts, and other techniques to spread disinformation would be perfectly legal and appropriate. Excuse me. Isn't it true that accepting such a thing of value is, in fact, a violation of law? And isn't it true that it is one of the highest priorities of our intelligence community, including the CIA, NSA, D-N.M, and FBI, to do everything possible to prevent such foreign interference or intervention in our elections?
It is without question among the very highest priorities of our intelligence agencies, our law enforcement, to prevent foreign interference in our election of the type and character that we saw in 2016. When Russia hacked the databases of the Democratic National Committee, the DCCC, when they began a campaign of leaking those documents, when it engaged in a massive and systemic social media campaign, our intel agencies and law enforcement have been devoting themselves to preventing a recurrence of that type of foreign interference. If I'm understanding counsel for the President correctly, and I think that I am, they're saying that not only is that okay to willingly accept that, but the very allegation against the President that Bob Mueller spent 2 years investigating, did it amount to criminal conspiracy? That is, could he prove beyond a reasonable doubt the crime of conspiracy? Again, we're talking about something separate from collusion here, although my colleagues keep confusing the two. Bob Mueller didn't address the issue of collusion. What he did address is whether he could prove the elements of criminal conspiracy. And he found that he could not. But what counsel for the President is now saying is, even if he could have, that's okay. It's now okay to criminally conspire with another country to get help in a presidential election, as long as the President believes it would help his campaign and therefore it would help our country. That's now okay. It's okay to ask for that help. It's okay to work with that power to get that help. That's not okay. I mean, it's been a remarkable evolution of the presidential defense. It began with none of that stuff happened here. It began with nothing to see here. It migrated to, okay, they did seek investigations of the President's political rival. And then it became, okay, those investigations were not sought by official channels through official policy. They were sought by the President's lawyer in his personal capacity. And then it migrated to, okay, we acknowledge that while the President's lawyer was conducting this personal political errand, the President withheld the money, but we think that's okay. We've witnessed over the course of the last few days and the long day today, a remarkable lowering of the bar to the point now where everything's okay as long as the President believes it's in his re-election interest. You could conspire with another country to get their help in your election, either by intervening on your behalf to help you or by intervening to hurt your opponent. And now we're told that's not only okay, but it's beyond the reach of the Constitution. And why? Because abuse of power is not impeachable. Because if you say abuse of power is impeachable, well, then you're impeaching people, presidents, for mere policy. Well, that's nonsense. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. As Professor Turley has argued, they're not the same thing as Bill Barr has argued. They're not the same thing as Professor Dershowitz argued 21 years ago. And they're not the same thing today. They're just not. You can't solicit foreign interference. And the fact that you're unsuccessful in getting it doesn't exonerate you. A failed scheme doesn't make you innocent. If you take a hostage and you demand a ransom, and the police are after you, and you release the hostage before you get the money, it doesn't make you innocent. It just makes you unsuccessful, an unsuccessful crook. But it doesn't mitigate the harmful conduct. And this body should not accept, nor should the American people accept, the idea put out by the president's lawyers today that it is perfectly fine, unimpeachable, for a president of the United States to say, hey, Russia, or hey, Ukraine, or hey, China, I want your help in my election. Because that's the policy of the president. We're calling that policy now. It's the policy of the president to demand foreign interference and withhold money from an ally at war unless they get it. That's what they call policy. I'm sorry. That's what I call corruption. And they can dress it up in fine legalese, but corruption is still corruption.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.